On October the 31st, 1517, Martin Luther posted 95 big questions, which he believed faced the church of his day, to a local church door in Wittenberg, Germany. Exactly 500 years later, I decided to post 95 new questions, one a week, to the web. Questions which I believe the church must face in the 21st century. Here's Chalke Talk, question 39. Why does good theology matter?
Steve Chalke is a heretic of the First Order. He's a weasel who robs the church of its power, scripture of its truth, and the family of its stability. Well, there's something for you to think about as you're watching this video. Over the last few weeks, as I've unpacked something of what I believe about the cross, some people have got themselves really wound up with me. But at the same time, others have worried about something else altogether. Why on earth does any of this really matter in the first place? Well, today I'd like to address both of those issues, but to do so in reverse order. So first, why does it matter what we believe? Why does it matter what we believe about the cross? My answer, because no theology is ever purely academic or theoretical. It all has practical implications. Take the readings of the Bible that through the centuries have been used to sanction crusades and inquisitions, and therefore the torture of hundreds of thousands of people of other faiths. Or to denounce Copernicus and Galileo's breakthrough in understanding the cosmos. Or to approve witch hunts across Europe and North America, which saw tens of thousands of innocent women slaughtered in the name of God. Or to portray African people as cursed by God and therefore to justify their enslavement. Or to legitimize apartheid and anti-Semitism. And still, of course, today, this very day, to condone the death penalty. To keep women subservient to men, to incite Islamophobia, to insist on a young earth, anti-scientific, six-day understanding of creation, and to abuse the environment. You just can't get away from it. Each of these has been a faith-based initiative, which is all fairly extraordinary for a tome which is often referred to as the good book. The point is this. All theology has huge repercussions, and bad theology has terrible practical and pastoral repercussions. Which is why, in my view, the litmus test of how good any theology built around the revelation that God is love is always simply this. How practically and pastorally helpful is it? And all this leads me to that other question, the first one, the one about those people who are mad, not just with me, but ready to insult and verbally destroy anyone with a different point of view to them. Whilst making these weekly videos, I've regularly been told I'm antichrist, apostate, I've been accused of damning people's souls with my false teaching, and of being bound for eternal judgment in hell myself. But just last week, research published from the universities of Bristol and Tennessee linked a decrease in religious belief to an increase in tolerance for individual human rights. Intolerance, of course, has sadly been a hallmark of some forms of Christianity, just as much as it's been of Islam across the centuries. And the study, which was widely reported in the press, suggested that losing your religion therefore allows you to play a fuller part in society. However, Damien Ruck, one of the academics who was leading the project, wryly commented, of course there's no reason why you can't be religious and also respect individual rights. It's time for us to learn to listen to each other's voices and opinions without maligning, slandering, misrepresenting, or even demonizing those with views that differ from our own. All growth in understanding is built on the foundation of open debate. If we respect the Bible, we can't simply carry on using it as an echo chamber to magnify our own thoughts and opinions. Of course we'll have disagreements within the church, but it's through debate that truth is found. We have to learn to engage with different opinions to ours in a more gracious and Christ-like discussion together. The problem is, as we all know, that there are some forms of Christianity which all too often display a closed worldview consisting of a set of assumptions that cannot be questioned. except at the peril of the questioner. But why is this? Why are some people so angry? Why do they get so upset when anyone puts forward a slightly different view to their own? Well, at its heart, I believe that the deepest but often unrecognised issue is that our behaviour is indissolubly linked to our beliefs. Although at times, of course, we fail to live up to our beliefs, we all do, this doesn't negate the core principle that our foundational beliefs and values will in the end always filter into our responses. Our values have consequences for both our attitudes and our actions. So back to the cross, because what we believe about it and how God was behaving there will inescapably shape our attitude and response to others, including those with whom we disagree. A distorted view of the cross, one which views God as angry and insisting on justice via retribution before forgiveness is possible, is bound to lead to a distorted understanding of God, of humanity, and of our mission in our local communities and wider society. If I regard myself as the faithful servant of an angry God, then I'll regard it as my responsibility, my duty to be angry with others. If I regard myself as the faithful servant of a condemning God, then I'll regard it as my duty to condemn. I'll discount anyone with whom I disagree. So what do you believe about the cross? I believe that if we're to take the New Testament seriously, we must acknowledge that any robust theology of the cross is multicoloured rather than monochrome. There are many ways of understanding the cross. I've tried to highlight some of these over previous weeks. But the writers of the New Testament use a spectrum of complementary metaphors to describe the cross, and no single theory can ever capture its breadth or its profundity. However, as I've made clear over the last few weeks, the way I see it at least, what's become known as penal substitution, the view that it's God's wrath that leads to the necessity for the cross, just doesn't fit comfortably with any of these. The shadow it casts doesn't match the picture of the cross painted by any of the New Testament metaphors or the biblical texts that are so often cited in its support. But more than that, it tends to reject and condemn all other views, just as I've experienced. So here's a question. Are we redeemed through love or via God's anger, retribution, and the vicarious punishment of Jesus? Think about it. It makes a huge difference to the way in which we see other people.
Find more of my 95 questions at openchurch.network/Chalke Talk.